Suave was one of the ways that people described how we looked on the last edition of Village Vice among the one-word descriptions. Yeah.
Great.
We appreciate all those. The always suave Zach Blackerby. You might as well call him Rico Suave. He's got his row back. Always Rico Suave in the row back. I'm Brad Law. It's a brand new Village Vice, and we are talking more about the offensive line today, Zach.
Yeah, and really more so the movement. I mean, just
Yeah.
what is really changing throughout this Hugh Freeze era of Auburn football so far.
Yeah. We're also going into one of the biggest recruiting weekends of the year. So I'm interested to see if over the next 20 to 25 minutes, anything breaks that will disrupt the discussion.
Well, we saw several bat signals tweeted out this morning. Not an offensive lineman, by the way.
Right.
It's not an offensive lineman.
No, what brought this discussion on was the number of comments that the last offensive line recruiting discussion brought about. We compared and contrasted these first three offensive line classes for Hugh Freeze and company with the two under Brian Harsin and his staff. And not one, but many people commented on that video, Gus's classes weren't anything to write home about. So we're going to take a little bit of a dive into that. Are you ready?
Yeah, and you've got some numbers, but one thing I want you to keep in mind numbers don't tell everything, right? These are all guys from high school, right? Yep. Gus could get linemen. He just couldn't get tackles. And so I think that's something to kind of keep in mind with all of this.
So what I have, and we can do as much or as little of this as we want. I don't want to drone on and let it be like the book of Exodus where you have passages where it's just like 50 names in a row, but
understood.
Some of this can be contextual. The 2013 class had 4 offensive linemen. One of them was Casey Dunn, who didn't start here. He went to Jack State and then finished here in 2017. Dion Mix was the highest rated of those offensive linemen. 2 were transfers. Mix out of high school was the number 35 rated guard in America.
Wow.
And it was the highest rated offensive lineman in the 23 class. Now, that's 4. In 2014, they had 1 offensive lineman in the class, and it was Braden Smith. He was awesome. He was a mountain the minute he got to campus.
Sure.
But that's only 5 in 2 years. All right, 2015 class had 5 guys. Bailey Sharp, Mike Horton, Caleb Kim, Marquel Harrell, Tyler Carr. Prince Tega was also in that class, but if you remember, he was a defensive lineman coming out of high school.
Right. Sure.
So
Jeremiah Wright before he was cool, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the first of 3 years in a row where they just took a defensive lineman and moved him over to offense.
They did it 3 years in a row.
I'm sorry, 2 years in a row. Sorry.
Who's the other one? I'm blanking.
Sorry, 3 out of 4 years. I'm sorry. The other was Tayshawn Manning in 2016.
That's right.
Tayshawn Manning was a D tackle coming out of high school.
Sure. Yeah.
In the 2016 class, Auburn only signed 1 offensive lineman. That was Brodarius Ham.
Okay.
And Tayshawn was a defensive tackle in that class.
Got it.
Xavier Dampier in 13 was another guy who later played offensive line but was recruited as a D lineman coming out of high school.
Got it.
So 3 in the first 4 years. And that's, look, every now and then you're going to do that. Coach Tuberville had some success with some guys doing that. He'd move offense to defense, defense to offense. I mean, that, Jay Ratliff made a lot of money making a move from the defensive line as a former tight end. So it happens sometimes. The point is 2013 had 4, 14 had 1, 15 had 5, but then 16 had 1 again. The 17 class had 3, Calvin Ashley, Austin Troxell, Nick Brahms. Calvin Ashley was the number 6 rated tackle in the country.
Yeah, he was. Yes, he was.
And I think the highest rated tackle that Auburn signed with Gus Malzahn and company in charge.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I would assume so.
Nick Brahms was the number 5 center that year. They had 2 top 10 at their position guys in 17. And then in 17, they have great success offensively, especially toward the end of the year. And in the 2018 class, they signed 2 offensive linemen, Cam Stutz, Jalil Irvin. Urban, number 30 rated guard nationally.
I mean, all these guys are like interior offensive linemen, with
Yeah.
the exception of just a few like whiffs, like Calvin Ashley.
2019, 3 linemen, Justin Osborne, Keandre Jones, Kamar Bell.
Okay. All interior.
And then 2020, as we discussed a few days ago, had 5. 2 of them from the JUCO ranks: Killian Zier, Brendan Coffey, then Jeremiah Wright, Tate Johnson, and Avery Jernigan. Jernigan, the number 25 rated center in the country, was the highest rated at his position in that signing class for Auburn. So, yeah, to kind of echo what you're saying, they're almost exclusively interior offensive linemen, and you're not consistently getting top 10 guys at a position. You need top 10 guys in their state, top 10 guys at their position to consistently win one-on-one matchups and be a top 10 team.
Yeah, and also, I mean, just think about it. So what, that was 20-ish names?
Yeah, 24 total.
Across 9 recruiting classes, because you counted 2013?
It was 24 guys in 8 classes.
8 classes. So
that's an average
a year. Yeah, on average
of 3 a year.
And I mean, especially now, and during the bulk of, I guess, all of the times you just said, like the transfer portal wasn't what it is now, and so it's going to be a lot more fluid. But I mean, I think if you're a staff, you want 5 or 6 offensive linemen a year, just because guys are going to leave, and you need what, 8 guys that you can trust going into every season. And you needed that then too, and they couldn't ever get the tackles, man. They couldn't ever get the tackles, so they were constantly scooting guys outside or changing, sides of the ball. And Hugh Freeze is trying to set it up where you can see he's trying to get it to where you could scoot guys inside. You can move from tackle to guard. It's hard to move from guard to tackle. So the approach is certainly there. Who knows what they're doing? Is that different? But whatever it is, it's working.
Yeah, it is. 20 linemen in 3 classes. We talked about this also earlier this week, that the rate, well, this is at any position, quite frankly. If you go back and look at 10 years of recruiting, you're going to find 40% of the names that you don't remember if you are just a casual fan. You won't have thought of it because they just, man, the transition from high school to college is not for everybody. Yeah. So the miss rate, and it's one thing if you play one quarterback and you take 3 and you miss on one, missing on one quarterback when only one plays is one thing. You got 5 offensive linemen out there at any one time. You have to have bodies. You just have to. So love the way the staff's doing it.
Yeah, and it's lottery picks too at some point. Like, get as many top 10 guys as you can. They don't all work out. It's not just Auburn where 5-star guys come in here and they don't pan out. Auburn's not the only place where 5 stars don't pan out. A lot of them don't. But the great teams that we've seen that have gone on these runs, Alabama and Georgia, they get tons of 5 stars. They don't all work out, but you get so many of them where you only need half of them to work, and then you've got a really good football team. So that's what Freeze and them are trying to do. And so far, this staff stays together, stacking on top of last year's class. Like, they're doing the right thing. They're doing the right thing.
You're right. So, hey, can I tell you, Zach, you're going to do the right thing when you do what you did today, and that's put on Roback. Roback is the right thing to do for your wardrobe, for your closet. And right now you get
for your confidence,
for your comfort. Wow. For your swagger. You're going to play golf. You're going to go to a lake party. You're going to, how about this? Just lounge around the house. They have something for every activity that you want to do in the summertime.
Yeah.
And they will give you 20% off when you go to roback.com. That's RHOBACK, roback.com, and use our promo code at checkout. That's Vice20. You get 20% off that first order. Polos, hoodies, quarter zips, everything. Check it out. You'll enjoy it. You'll thank us later.
All right, it's freshman time.
It is. This is our final installment of the class-by-class breakdown of the roster and the guys that we think are the most impactful of their class,
right?
Specifically for the 2024 season. All right, we've done everybody but the true freshman class. 21 true freshmen on the roster. Here they are: Bryce Kane, Cam Coleman, Amaris Williams, Jamonte Waller, Walker White, TJ Lindsey, DeMarcus Riddick, Caleb Harris, Kinsley Falston, Joe Phillips, DJ Barber, Towns Magoo, Jay Crawford, Keaton McNutt, Malik Blockton, Favor Edwin, Cameron King, Dylan Gentry, happy birthday, Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thompson, DeAndre Carter. 21.
Try to figure out what order you went in just then. Normally you go by position. What order was that?
That was numerically on the roster online, plus Malcolm, Perry, and Dre, because they weren't on the roster yet.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second largest group on the team. There were 22 seniors, 21 true freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what we've said many times, that the roster is both.
That's the dynamic of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of older guys, and there's a bunch of rookies, a bunch of newbies.
What I'm going to do on this list, by the way, is I'm going to take Cam Coleman out of the discussion, because there's nobody watching who wouldn't put him at number 1.
Okay.
All right.
Got it.
So it makes it a little more of a talking point, or a difficult to parse it out. So difficult, in fact, that I'm cheating on my number 3.
Okay.
And I'm listing 2 guys. Because DeMarcus Riddick and DJ Barber, I think, I don't know how to separate the 2 of them in terms of their importance.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. They're both high IQ guys. They're both athletes. I mean, little bit of a different build, different build, but same explosiveness.
Yeah, I mean, they're different players, which is good. I think you want linebackers that can do different things. Them growing up next to each other in the defense is going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch, because Barber will hit the stew out of you. I mean, he is your classic thumper. Like, he is just going to wear you out. And Riddick, you're playing against these offenses that, want to make you defend every blade of grass. I mean, he is as rangy as it gets coming from a linebacker.
And I don't know which I would consider more important than the other. It depends on the opponent, maybe. And it also depends on, these guys aren't going to start, especially the first half of the season. You feel great about the first line of linebackers, but you can't just play 3. You need more bodies. These guys are going to play. And I think that what they do will need to be significant this year. They're not just going to be playing mop-up minutes.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they're both. I mean, we agree they're the fifth and 6th linebackers on the roster in no particular order. Eugene Asante, Austin Keys, Dori Mausi, like those are the top 3. I think Robert Woodyard's 4. Then DeMarcus Riddick and DJ Barber 5 and 6. Like, how often does that 5th and 6th linebacker play? Assuming like not mop up duty, right? Assuming not up by 30 or down by 30. Hopefully that doesn't happen this year. But like, is that, I don't know. I've heard other people say that too, Brad, and I want them to play. I just don't really see the path to it unless, something weird happens.
Yeah. Unless they're just so talented and impactful that you can't, they're worth being on the field 10, 12 snaps.
Yeah. Special teams, probably a part of it. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
All right. My number 2 is similar. It's Joe Phillips. Auburn has bolstered his position a little, but if you watch this show with any regularity, I feel about Joe Phillips the way you feel about cornerbacks. I am fired up to watch him get on the field and use that football savvy and drive together to make plays on the field. Now, Auburn has bolstered the position through the portal that he plays. He's not going to have to be the first guy off the sideline. I just think in terms of this true freshman class, and with taking Cam Coleman out of the discussion, he's my number 2.
It's a good number 2. I mean, Joe Phillips he's a versatile player. He's extremely athletic, and he's just got the mentality that you want. Worked a job when he was in high school just because it was the right thing to do. We felt like it was the right thing to do. I mean, he's the kind of guy that Auburn people fall in love with over the course of their time here. So.
His attitude and approach and foundation as he gets to Auburn reminds me a lot of Quentin Riggins in the late 80s. And if anybody has listened to Quentin talk about his upbringing and sort of his mindset when he got to campus, now, there's been a lot of years since, between Quentin and Joe, but it does remind me of that a little bit.
I don't love your list today so far, by the way. I don't love it.
Well, that's okay.
I don't love it. Before you say number 1, and then I give you my thoughts on your list.
Yeah.
I want to tell you about our friends at mybookie.ag. MyBookie, they've got your sports book where you can wager on everything, check the lines out for everything, props, odds, parlays. They've got it all over at MyBookie, but they've also got this really awesome virtual experience or virtual casino where you can interact with live dealers. They've got all the slots and progressive jackpots. They've got it all over at MyBookie. Right now, when you sign up at MyBookie, be sure to use our promo code next round. That's one word, no space, next round. And they'll hook you up with all sorts of VIP perks as well as some extra money to play with. So check out MyBookie and use promo code next round.
My number one is Amaris Williams.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
So then that one's okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
I think he was listed as one of the top 100 impact freshmen in the country nationally coming into the season.
You don't have Perry Thompson on this list?
I don't. And
why?
I think because Auburn added the pieces that it added in the receiving core.
Sure. Yeah.
And because Cam is on the list, I don't know that Auburn needs Perry to be like a number 2 receiver.
I think they need Perry this year more than they need Riddick and Barber.
Okay.
Some of that's position scarcity, right? And some of that is, Eugene Asante and Austin Keys, and they brought in my UC. Like some of that, It's not really about them. It's just about the other folks in the room.
Right.
No, but Amaris is great. Big fan.
But I like this discussion because I think a lot of people are going to say, where's Perry or where's Malcolm or where's Bryce? Where's some of the other receivers?
Well, I feel like I'm normally on the side where you are, where people are like, Perry's going to lead in receiving. I'm like, no, he's not. He's not.
Right.
He's going to be a part of it. We hope. That's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
I just think they're going to make him a priority. I think you have to find a way to involve Perry Thompson. I think you have to, from a recruiting standpoint. I think you have to do it.
And I think they may, but I think that again with Cam and look, that'd be great. I'd throw a party if Perry breaks out and Cam breaks out, and Perry is a guy you look at as a number 2 or number 3 before the season's over. This team's doing big things. It's hitting the over on the win total.
Sure,
it's a terrific season.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying I think that's going to happen. I think Perry could be a number 4 option in this offense right now as a freshman, who didn't go through spring. But my point is, like, Perry as a 4 or a 3, is definitely as a 2. I just think that's more impactful than Riddick and Barber in 2024.
Yeah. Fair. I'd love to know what the rest of the Villagers think.
I have 2 more. I have 2 more that I should be ahead of them as well.
Sure. I've got some honorable mentions too. So let me hear yours. Yeah.
Malik Blockton would probably be I think my 3 from 1 to 3 would be Malik Blockton may be number 1 on my list.
Okay. Where does he fall in the D lineman pecking order?
I think he's a 3 technique as far as where he is in that pecking order.
Yeah.
He's probably behind Gage Keys and Bleedy. And I don't know what they're going to do with Rakes.
Yeah.
I mean, is he a true nose? Do they scoot him out? They talk about how versatile everybody is, but I think they're going to need
really do both. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like Bleedy can play end. Like what happens if Keldrick needs a second? Like, do they scoot him out or does Amaris play at that backup end spot? It's going to be fascinating to see how they handle it. But I think Malik Blockton is going to be a part of it. I don't think he's going to be a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But as a true freshman in the SEC, playing 10 to 15 snaps a game, like I think that's a big deal. And I think that's about where Blockton's going to be. So I assume he was one of your honorable mentions.
No question. He was my number 1 honorable mention. Yeah.
Okay. So he's just outside of the list, which is, I think that's good. Who else was on your list?
Towns Magoo is on my list just because we didn't see Alex McPherson at A-Day.
Sure.
And if, I don't know. I get the sense that Towns could wind up being an impactful player, or at least needs to be ready to be an impactful player. And
yeah, I mean, if you don't play in the spring, I mean, there's a chance you don't play in the fall. So we'll see what happens with Towns. No question about it. Jamonta Waller should be an honorable mention. I wouldn't put him in the top 3, but Jamonta Waller, he's going to be the third edge rusher. And like Auburn has had a bad track record of keeping edge rushers healthy.
Yeah.
And so if something happens, oh my gosh. But if something happens to Jalen McLeod or Kieran Crawford, Jamonta Waller becomes very important.
100% agree with that. Anybody in the secondary that you would, I mean, who do you think of the true freshman class is most likely to play in the secondary?
Jay Crawford's the next corner up. After Kayan Lee is done and gets drafted high, Jay Crawford's the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, see, and I think he and Dre Carter, there are some other guys who may not be in our top 3 this year, but we kind of add the caveat that we have in the sophomore and the redshirt freshman class.
Right.
You look at 25 and beyond.
This is the team.
Right.
This is the core of the team. Yeah.
Yeah. This discussion today is the 2024 season, not the future of the program or who's going to have the best career, anything like that. It's for this year.
Yeah. I mean, a guy who we didn't even mention, Walker White.
Mm-hmm.
If things go the way a lot of Auburn fans think it's going to, Walker White not only becomes the most important person in this class, but the most important person on the team, right?
Yep.
If he ends up winning the quarterback job at some point. So
right.
This is if Hugh Freeze wins an SEC championship at Auburn, it will be because of this class.
This year's true freshman class.
Yeah, I don't think it's a crazy thing to say. Yeah.
No, I don't think that's crazy at all.
Yeah.
Your second recruiting class, I mean, by the time you get to like year 4, those guys are now turning the corner in their upperclassmen.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. And I love, you know what? I am buying what is being said about Auburn on the recruiting trail and the hype this year. Zach, do you know anybody who isn't?
You want to play it? You want me to play it?
Yeah.
Or are you just, okay.
Yeah. Let's give people a little longer episode going into the weekend. That's fine.
All right. So this is from the radio show on Jocks, 3-man front.
Mm-hmm.
This is Cole Kublik's show, correct?
No, 3-man front is their midday show.
Oh, my bad.
Yep.
My bad. But yeah, Jocks' show. And Michael Bratton, who does an SEC podcast, was the guest. Here's a clip of what he said.
I'm not buying the hype. I don't like the way Hugh Freeze is going about this. I ain't spending $1 million on a quarterback, but you don't have to go to the dollar store to get a quarterback either, Hugh. I think his reputation is overblown because he beat Alabama twice. People forget that he lost to Vanderbilt twice in that same span. I think he is not an elite coach, and I don't like the way he's building it through high school. You could do that 4 or 5 years ago. I think you have to do it in the portal these days. I think there's a good chance heading into next season, Hugh Freeze is on one of the hotter seats in the SEC.
I've never heard anybody else say like, yeah, don't recruit through the high school ranks. Don't build through the high school ranks. Is there a program that's built it through the portal that you're like, yes, I want what they have? Serious question.
Well,
like you look at Colorado, you're like, I don't want what they have.
No.
You look at Ole Miss, I don't want what they have.
That's not long-term sustainable. That's not it's what Cal was doing at Kentucky. It was one and done. It wasn't portable, but your guys are getting on campus for 1 year. They're not being developed. They're 1 year and they're out.
Sure.
In the basketball realm. Yeah. So this time next year, Hugh Freeze on the hot seat after a top 5 recruiting class and
let me because everybody's piling on Bratton, and I think it's a terrible take. I think it's an awful take. But what he might have been trying to say is if Auburn goes 6-6 this year and they still have a top 10 class, which I do think is an option, like that could happen. Not predicting it to happen, but I do think that could happen. Is there enough of the Auburn fan base to say this is ridiculous? We need to be better than 6 wins a year at Auburn, especially if they lose a bowl game again. Let's say they go, another year with a losing record or whatever. Like, could he technically be on the hot seat then? Like, maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think you would, because the whole time since he's been here, he has been pitching future. And so to build through the portal would contradict everything that he said.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's laid out the plan, and I got to tell you, a year and a half in, if the plan that he's made absolutely no bones about laying out wasn't acceptable, it wouldn't still be in place. You would have heard and seen a pivot away from the message that's been there since day one. So I find, I mean, things would really have to go belly up. I mean, in a way like nobody could envision for him to be on the hot seat next year.
Yeah.
I don't even think, I mean, 6-6 in a bowl game would be followed by more recruiting news, and then we get right back into that optimism and excitement. So I don't.
Well, and also there's a few other elements to like what he said that is just false.
Yeah.
With like the beating Bama twice, but also losing to Vandy. It's like, well, those happen in different years. It's not like he beat Alabama, then the next year he lost, or the next week he lost to Vandy.
Yeah.
It was sandwich. He lost to Vandy one season, beat Alabama 2 seasons in a row, then lost to Vandy the following his last season at Ole Miss. Yeah. So like that's not like those weren't the same teams. So like that's a little disingenuous, or it could just be wrong. I don't know. I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
And then what's the other thing that he said?
Was it the dime store quarterback?
Yes. Yeah. So it's like, okay, they went out to go and get Peyton Thorne, and it's like, okay, well, you don't have to spend $1 million. Like you can go somewhere else. Genuine question. And we talked about this on Village Vice, talked about it on every radio show I went on.
Multiple shows about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's like, okay, well, if you like who would have been better that wouldn't have cost $1 million? Who would have been better than Peyton?
Yeah.
And nobody was ever really able to answer that question.
And do you think that that's really the case? Do you think he's really that bad, or was that just a cute thing you could say to get a reaction?
Yeah, I don't know. So, he's got a lot of subscribers. A lot of his views are clickbaity, whatever. Good for him. But it's just kind of, I don't know. It's a weird move.
Yeah.
It's a weird move.
We'll
great
talk
for 3-man front. Great for jocks.
Sure.
Great soundbite. Yeah.
No, look, and I work with jocks. I know some of the people there anyway, and you understand. I get it, but disagree vehemently, and many of you watching do as well. So,
yep. All right, that about does it for today's show.
It does. Yeah, we wanted to bring that up on the way into the weekend. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and nothing broke during the show. No breaking news. So we'll see what we have to talk about next week. Until then, remember, everyone has vices. Everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.